Hello guys, my name is Nikoloz. I'm international master from Georgia. My live rating is 2509 and I decided to create video about French defense. French defense is very popular, especially last time, because most of people like to play this very solid structure with black pieces against e4 move. And personally, I did not have a nice experience in last few games because I played with white pieces and did not have a good result. So after that, I decided to check the lines well, use chess engines, use chess games, and analyze some variation myself. Of course, everything is totally free, and I just decided to create a YouTube channel for regional people. Before that, I had only one channel on YouTube, and this one was for Georgian people and Georgian auditory only. So after e4, e6, of course, white has too many options. D4 is the main line. Also, knight f3 is possible. Knight e3 is possible. Even I like to play the queen e2 because it's some crazy line like after queen e2. White black cannot play d5. Of course, they can, but still, this structure looks different. After queen e2 c5 was possible. I mean, I have a lot of experience with second move queen e2, but I don't think queen e2 is the best here. And after queen e2, I think white has no real chance to find some advantage. So e4, e6, I've decided to analyze d4 better, d5 and knight c3. Of course, it's a main line. After the black has two options. First one is knight f6, which one is, I think, it's more easier for white, and we'll check the lines later after knight f6. But first of all, I wanna show you this move bishop on b4. So bishop on b4, I think it's a critical position in French defense because after that white has too many moves like e5 is possible and very hard game after c5. Also, e takes d5 is possible. I think there are many moves like bishop d2 even maybe it's possible too. But I decided to show you um, one very interesting line, which one I did not have any experience before, but I found it about 1 month ago, maybe less, 2 weeks ago, and I decided to analyze it. Knight g2 move. The idea of knight g2 move is like that. First, black cannot take on c3 because we can take it by knight, and after that we'll take two bishop advantage. After knight g2, our structure looks more solid, and if black will play something like knight e7 or knight e6, which one we will see later because analyze this moves too. We will take small, practical, and nice advantage with with white pieces because after a3 bishop takes knight takes, for example, we can control the center somehow, and our structure looks ideal, and we have two bishop advantage. The main idea of bishop before move here is to destroy our structure, like after e3 c5 pawn a takes, bishop takes, pawn takes. It's the main idea of leg pieces, and after knight g2 it's just impossible. So let's check d takes e4 in this video because I analyzed many moves with black pieces. First one is knight f6, we'll see later. Also knight c6 and knight g7, we'll check it later. And today I'm gonna show you this move pawn takes e4, which one I think it's more concretical and practical to play with black because they can take one pawn on e4 and they just ask us how to continue play. So after pawn takes a4, I like to play pawn on a3 because after that black need to make some decisions. Like first one is bishop takes c3, which one is the most logical because if they will take on c3 and play something like bishop a5 move, we all can play b4, bishop b6, knight takes e4, and we will take small positional advantage because of this bishop on b6. It cannot enter in the game because of our pawn structure. We can play c3 next, and bishop has some seriously problems on b6. Also, we can play g3, bishop g2, and short castle. Generally, it's our main plan in this situation, and our position looks better, of course. So after a3, black can play bishop e7 move. Which one is not main line? Main line is bishop takes e3, and we'll check it later. So we can check bishop e7 move, knight takes e4. So knight takes e4 is the most solid way. Also we have some interesting options like rook g1 and g4. I will just show you some moves after g4 or rook g1. Idea of g4 is that after knight f6, which one is the most logical way? We can play g5, knight d5, knight takes e4, and we will take small position later, not cheap because after short castle rook g1 is possible. b5 is the best, as engine says, but it's really hard to find on the board. But still, after knight f4, bishop b7, knight h5, the position looks very active for white. We can play knight f6 next and start attack on king side, and our king on e1 looks quite safe. So g4, bishop d7 is the main move because of this one. Knight g3, bishop c6, bishop b3, knight f6, queen e2, and the position looks very interesting. I mean, white has some crazy plans like short long castle and next play g5 and start attack on the king, and black can play of course this position, but I think it's still unpleasant for black because we always can take back e4 pawn, and after that we'll have a very good attack on black king. So after bishop b7, of course, this idea is possible, but I prefer to play knight takes e4 because mostly we need to have more solid positions than some unclear situation like we have already checked. Knight f6 here, knight takes, bishop e3, and here black has several moves like knight c6, castle, and c5. So knight c6 is the main line. Knight c6 is a new move, I think, because most of people like to play short castle, which one is quite incorrect. I will show you what's the reason. Also, c5 is possible, but after d takes c5, queen takes, rook takes, bishop takes b2, rook b1, bishop is under attack. You need to go back on f6 here, and you have a very strong move g4. The idea of g4 is that we want to develop our bishop on g2 move, g2 square, and also after g5, f6 bishop has seriously problems here. It need to go back. We can control everything on the board, and position, of course, looks better for white. It's almost winning, by the way. I can say that. So c5 is, of course, logical move, but very big mistake. So let's check short castle, which one looks very logical, queen d2 and c5. Of course, if black will not try to destroy our center, like attack on d4 pawn, we have very simple plan. This one is long castle, h4, bishop g5, g4, g5, and their king on g8 looks quite weak. I mean, it's even impossible to save the king well if they will not try to start controlling in the center. So knight c6, queen d3. I checked this move, and the engine dip was 55. So queen d3 was the best. I mean, engine was thinking between queen d2, queen d3, sorry, and queen d2, which one was the best, and finally engine said queen d3 is the best here. It's a bit complicated situation because queen e2 looks more logical, but finally we will find that after queen d3 we have more options like play queen b5 or something like. Also d2 square is useful for our rook sometimes maybe. Also we can make transfer bishop c1, and I mean queen on d3 general looks not the best, but in reality it's the best square. So queen d3, b6, g4, our main idea, bishop b7, bishop g2, queen d7, g5, bishop e7, rook g1, castle, castle. So everything is going logically, but still, we have castles on the same side. Like here, engine side short castle was very bad for black. And personally, I think engines says totally true because after the long castle, black doesn't have enough time to start counterplay on our queen side, and our attack is going very fast. So long castle, king b8, knight c3. Here, engine said h4 was the best or something like that, but I don't like this idea. I always prefer to find some concretical plan, and if the concretical plan works, I prefer to use this one. And knight c3 is one of the best plan, I think, because after knight c3 we want to play d5, and after it takes d5, activate our knight on d5, and because of our solid structure and more active pieces like g2 bishop is more active than bishop b7, bishop b3 looks more active than bishop b7, also g5 square takes space on king side. This position is slightly better for white, I can say that. So queen d3 is the new move here, I think, knight after knight g6. So short castle, queen d2, c5 for the long castle. And we can check here c takes d4 and queen b6. If black takes on the d4, we can take it by knight, and after a6, which one is the most logical move, because black need to start some counterplay on our queen side. We can play bishop d3, queen c7, h4, e5, knight f3, rook d8, queen b4, knight c6, queen b6, and position is slightly better for white. It's not even slightly, it's I think more better than slightly, because after the queen exchange, we have better structure, like this three pawn against two pawn are stronger than this four pawn against three pawn, because um, it's easier for we to create uh, more unique chains here. So it's about c takes d4. Also, we have to check queen b6 move, bishop g7, knight d7, bishop g5, knight d7, h4, pawn takes on d4, knight takes on d4, h6, knight b3, queen c7, and bishop d3. After that, black cannot take on g5 because we will take a very simple mating attack. In other case, we have more space. We can control d5. Our attack is going faster than black's attack, because I think practically they don't have any real chance to start mating attack here, and his king looks very weak on g8. So a3, we have already checked the bishop e7 move. I mean, we did not check this move total, because I have more analysis, more lines, and it's impossible to show all of this during the video. But of course, if you will have interest, you can uh, write some comments, and I will send you the PGN in there. So bishop takes c3 is the main line, knight takes c3, and knight c6. Knight c6 is the best move here, of course, but instead of knight c6, black also can try other moves, like knight e7 is possible, knight f6 is possible, and f5 is possible. F5 is not the best. I mean, f5 is a practical mistake, but it's of course logical to play f5, because when you play against someone and if your pawn is under attack, of course he will try to save this pawn somehow. So f5 is logical move, I think, here. So let's check f5 first, but of course it's a mistake, because queen h5 check, g6, and queen h3. It's extremely strong option. First, after queen h3, we have a very strong bishop on c1. I mean, we can develop this bishop on f4 and play bishop e5. Generally, the idea of queen a5 is to provocate this pawn to play g6, because after that, black cannot control this diagonal well. After queen h3, we need to play bishop a4 and bishop e5 transfer. Queen takes d4 is only one move here, I think, knight b5. So now queen is under attack. Black has two moves, queen b6 and queen g7. Queen b6 looks, I think, not very good, because of the bishop f4 and knight a6, long castle. The queen on b6 has seriously problems. Also, bishop e5 is possible. I think here after knight a6, bishop e5 is even winning. Yeah, it's just winning here. So queen g7 is only one move. Idea is to save c7 pawn and control after bishop f4 move this diagonal somehow, maybe because of e5 move, but still we're going bishop f4, e5, and queen c3. The main idea of queen h3 was to make this transfer to on c3, and after that the game is practically winning for white. Knight c6 is only one way, long castle, bishop b6, and f3. Of course, f3 is important here, because without f3, we have very strong pieces, knight, bishop, queen, rook, but still, if we will not open the game, black will take some chance to control the situation. So f3, knight h6, knight h6, okay, it's only one way, because after knight f6, e5 pawn is under attack, knight g7 is impossible, because we can take on c7. So knight h6 is only one move, king b1, very strong move. Still, we are waiting for black, like if they will play something like short castle. After that, we can win this game very easily. So g5, bishop takes g5, rook c8, bishop takes h6, queen takes h6, f takes e4, short castle, and the bishop g4. And we have equal material. It looks like equal, but in reality, black king is very weak on g8. We have very active pieces. They have many weaknesses in the center. E5 and e5 pawn. I mean, our knight is very active on b5. Next, we can take on a5 and make transfer knight c3, knight e5, or knight c3, knight e4. And finally, this position is uh, collapsing for black. I mean, they have some chance to save this game, but practically it's very hard for them. So we check at this move f5, which one I think is not the best, of course. Now we can check other lines like knight e7 move, knight takes e4, knight c6. I think knight e7 is quite passive, but it's still possible to try to save somehow the game. Is black resist, knight b6, bishop b3, and knight e5. Engine says short castle is the best, but I don't understand the idea of short castle because after bishop c4, bishop c4, knight e5, queen h5, it's just very good position for white because if they will take, we can take it and we can control the center. We can start attack on h7, pawn is knight g5, and black has no real counterplay chance. So after queen h5, queen h4 is the best. Queen takes, knight takes, long castle, and of course here we have ideal situation because black cannot take this knight on g2 because this knight will be under trap because it cannot go back on g4 like after bishop g5 or rook g1, knight f6 ideas. I mean, it's almost collapsing for black. So f5 is only one way, knight g5, f4, and here we have very strong move, bishop takes on e6. Engine said here was about plus 70, but still we need to be careful with white pieces because if we will miss one move, maybe we will lose the game. So let's check these lines after bishop takes e6. Black has two options. King h8 is the best, and also they can take on e6, but it's simpler for white. We can take by knight, queen e8. We can take this rook. If they will take, we take. Queen takes f8, and after queen f3, we have two pawn and rook against two knights, and of course, because of this position, it's much more better for white. So king h8, and after king h8, I need to check the position well because I did not check this line before. I thought after king h8 it was, yeah, queen h5 is here, pawn h6 and a short castle. It's very important situation. After that, if black will take on e3, we can take it and open f5, and black cannot stop our knight f7 move. So the best is to play knight on g8. We can play after that knight f7 check, rook takes, maybe you can take even by queen, pawn takes, e3, pawn takes e3, and of course we have rook and two pawn against two knights, and because of this structure, I mean c6 knight has no squares in the center. This position is really better for white. I mean, black has some chance to save the game, of course. I mean, black always takes some chance generally because we cannot win chess game after first move e4, but the position is clearly better for white. So that's enough, I think. So knight takes e4, knight c6, bishop e3. Okay, we have already checked this line. After knight takes on c3, yeah. And we have to check one more option. Okay, knight c6 is the main line. Maybe knight f6, yeah, we have to check it. Bishop g5, h6, bishop h4. Of course, we can take on f6 and play. This position is slightly advantage for white, but I always has more ambition to fight for more advantage. Not like this. I mean, it's not enough for me. Bishop h4, I think it's the best here. And of course, g5 is very bad for black because after bishop g3, we can play bishop e5. Next, start attack on f6 knight. Also, h4 is possible. We have fully compensation, and even more, it's almost winning for white. So let's check another moves like knight c6, which one I think is the most logical. Bishop b5, bishop d7, d5, e takes d5, knight takes d5, g5. G5 is only one way because without G5 we can take on F6, and after this double pawn, of course, it's practical losing for black. So G5, bishop G3, knight takes D5, queen takes D5, short castle, long castle, and the bishop G4. If they will not play bishop G4, we can take on E4 and even play H4, and the king is the weakest situation. And because of our two bishop advantage, also weakness on dark side, dark squares, it's really hard for black to say something. So bishop d4, rook d2, queen d5, rook d5, and after that, black has big problems. First, they have full compensation. We can play h4 next, or take on c6 and play rook c5 and take this pawn back. Also, c7 pawn is under attack, and position is quite unpleasant for them. Knight c6, bishop d4. Okay, we have already checked it. So it's time to check the main line, knight c6 move, and after knight c6, it's the main position generally after knight g2 line, I think. And here, all of players like to play something like bishop e5. It's quite slowly, I mean. Also, we can play bishop e3 and try to find the take e4 pawn and play bishop e5, and after that take this knight on c6 and take this pawn on back on e4. But I mean, after that, it's easier for black to save the game, and I always try to find new options. I mean, of course, it's not the option to play d5 here. There are many games, but it's still not the popular like bishop e5. And after d5, we have more practical chance to fight for some advantage. So pawn takes d5, queen takes d5, and it's the main position generally. After that, black has too many options. First, we have to check this move, queen takes d5, because it looks very logical. Knight takes d5 and c7 pawns under attack. Of course, if your opponent will play king d8 after bishop a4 and long castle, position is practically winning for white. And knight d4 is the main move here. Knight takes c7 and king d7. All players like to play king d8 here, and it's very stupid move, I can say that. And it looks very funny too, because here we don't need to take this rook on a8. It's our secret. Like we can play bishop on g5 check, and after king takes c7, bishop on f4 check. It's a novelty maybe. After king c6, which one is only almost, because if they play like something like king b6, we can play bishop b3, and after they take this knight on d4 simple. And if they will try to play king d8 after long castle, they cannot save this knight on d4. And of course, position is winning because we have no material advantage, but still, look at the position. We have two bishop advantage, we have full compensation if our pawn is quite weak here, and black has no real chance. I mean, it's totally collapsing for them. So king c6, a long castle, knight f5. Knight f5 is not the best. Is not the best. I think knight e6 is the best, but after rook d6, king c5 before there is checkmate. And if they will play king c7, we can take this knight and they will lose the knights. So knight, as I remember, knight f5 was not the best, but it was the most practical. And here we have this move g4. After g4, we want to play rook d6 still, and f5 knight is under attack. Knight cannot go anywhere because of like after if they play knight e7, rook d6, and after king c7 we have check rook somewhere, and if they play king c5, there is a before checkmate in the middle of the game. I mean, just checkmate here. So knight e5, g4, g5, bishop takes g5, and here black has too many options, like knight e7 is the main move. If they will play knight g7, you can play bishop a4, knight e8, rook d8, knight e7, bishop g2, king b6, bishop takes e4, and we have winning position. Knight d6 it looks logical, but here we have very strong and unusual move, and this one is rook g1. Look at the situation, we have less piece and compensation is only one pawn, but still we have very strong bishop. Knight cannot develop anywhere because if they will play something like that we can take it simple. And after rook g1, we are trying to save g4 pawn, and we have one more hiding transfer rook g3 and rook c3 next. So knight 7, bishop g2, bishop takes g4, bishop takes c4, king c7, rook d4, and the main idea, we need to double rooks on the line and also start attacking on g4 bishop, and our compensation is very nice. And you say it's maybe +1 or something like that, but in practical it's winning for white, I think. So king d7 is the best here, but of course people plays only king d8 because they don't know about this idea bishop g7, which one I found with the engine. King d7, knight takes, king d2, knight takes, king c3, knight f6, bishop c4 here, king c7, and bishop takes f7. It's the best for black, but still look at the situation. They need to play rook f8, bishop a2, bishop f5, bishop e3, rook takes, rook d8, rook c1, and Here we have two bishop advantage. E4 pawn is weak. F5 bishop has big problems. King on c6 doesn't look safe, and it's very bad for black. I can say that. It's enough for you. I mean, you will understand this position better, I think, when you take some practice. So, queen takes d5. We have already checked queen takes d5. Also, black can play bishop g4 move. After that, we can take this pawn on e4, queen e7, bishop e5, queen takes, knight g7, bishop g5, bishop f5, long castle. f6, bishop takes, bishop on f4, and we have a small position advantage because after rook c8 we can play knight c3 and make transfer knight on d5. Your opponent cannot take on e4 because after rook e1, f5, f3 will take this bishop back, and because of bishop you have small advantage because it's end game, and the end game is like open type end game, and when position type is open, of course bishop is stronger than knight. So I mean, we have checked many lines. Okay, we can check knight g7 move. You can take here, take bishop d2 next, a long castle, and rook e1, and just it's better because black cannot save e4 pawn. Like if they will try to play something like knight c5, can play b4 and take this pawn on e4 next. That position is better for white. So now we can check the main line. Bishop e6, queen takes e4, and here black has two moves. Like knight f6 is the main line. Of course, it's more active, and black need to make some active moves because like knight g7, which one is sideline, you can play bishop g5 move. Can bishop f5, queen x, knight x, take, bishop d3, knight h4, castle, and bishop e4. After that, still, I mean, it's the main thing generally in chess. When you play endgame and you have bishop and your opponent has knight, it's always better for you if the position types is open. And the type of position is quite open. I mean, bishop looks very strong on e4, 6 knight is under attack, knight on h4 looks stupidly. We can control d file and e file next, and it's quite unpleasant for black. Of course, I mean, I cannot say you will win this end game because you need to have some chess skills to play this end game well, but practically you have more chance than black to fight for winning. So knight f6 here is the main line, queen a4, and finally here black has three options. The main move is queen d4, but also they can play short castle move and knight d5 move. The idea of knight d5 is exchange knights, but it's still not good for black because you can play simple bishop d2, queen e7, castle, bishop d3, and here we have two bishop advantage. Position type is open, and of course that means we have advantage. So knight d5 is not the best. I mean, queen d4 is the main line, so let's check short castle. After a short castle, we play bishop d2 move. Our plan is to make long castle, not short first. And of course, there black need to stop our develop. And the most logical move is to play bishop on g4. And the strongest option is to play knight on g4. So let's check bishop on g4. Here I found a novelty. Uh, there may be some players played pawn on h3, but I found new move, and this move is bishop on it first. Because if we play something like h3, bishop h5, g4, rook e8, bishop h3, and bishop g6, rook d1, queen c8, bishop g2, h5, g5, knight h7. I mean, it's like theoretical line even. Short castle, knight e7, and queen d7, knight f5, queen takes, bishop a4, a6, rook d7. I think here black has the rook e7 move, and of course this position is better, but still, I mean, our bishop on g2 doesn't look active because of the structure. Black has the square on f5 with knight, and this position is slightly even better for white. Of course, I will send you the PGM format of this position because I have more analysis here. Just I'm trying to show you the main lines. Of course, this position is slightly pleasant for white, but I think here we don't have any real chance to fight for win. So that's why I prefer uh, to play novelty, bishop e3 move, and after bishop h5, bishop on a6, And after that, black is under pressure, like they need to take this. Bishop queen takes, knight g4, short castle, knight takes e3, pawn takes e3, rook b8 is the best here. If they will not play rook b8, then they will play something like when this is, you can change it, exchange it, and play rook e5 next, and try to control on the line like this, and rook d1 next, and rook d1 is better for white. I mentioned before, like when we have endgame situation, bishop is stronger than knight. Of course, we have, I mean, the similar open situation, but in this case, black has too many weaknesses, like isolated pawn on a7, on a6, on c7, and because of this, knight has more opportunities in future than black bishop. So rook b8 is the best, knight d5, rook takes b4. I mean, it's the most logical move to play rook b8 here. These black pieces, knight d5, rook takes b2, knight b4, queen d2, queen c5, a5, queen e5 is the strongest move. A takes, queen takes, rook f2, and the position is slightly pleasant for white. So I mean, it's not my fully analysis. I'm trying to show you the main lines, and then not like 40 or 50 moves because I know it has no idea. Queen d4. Queen d4 is the main line finally here. So knight f6, queen a4. Queen d4 is the main line. We have already checked short castle, bishop d2, and knight g4 moves. Of course, sorry, bishop g4 move. Knight g4 is possible too, but after knight g4 you can play queen f4 and next make long castle, and position is slightly better for white. So queen d4 is the best move here. Bishop e5, queen takes a4, bishop takes a4, long castle, bishop takes, pawn takes, bishop e3. And the end game is slightly better for white because of the weakness on c7, c6, and a7 pawn. And the game is only for two results. You will win with white pieces or you will make a draw. So black has no chance to fight for any future and advantage. I mean, and this is my first video. I was trying to make content for people who speaks English, but personally, I mean, I feel like I don't speak well. Of course, I can speak and I can show you some lines, but I mean, I did not have any motivation to do this before, but I found some motivation and hope you will like this video. Of course, this is not full video. I will show you another lines like in the next video. If the video will take some views and you will find some interest, I want to show you these things. Okay, I will show you. Next video, I want to show you e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, bishop b4, knight g2, and here black has some alternatives like to play knight on f6, knight on c6, knight on g7. From then knight f6 is the best, and I will show you the lines and hope you will use it and you will reach some success. So thank you very much for watching. You can uh, like the video, you can subscribe my channel because this channel is totally new and it has all subscribers at the moment. And if you find it interesting and if you will use it and you will win some games, you can also write some comments in the comment section. So see you guys.